I made sure I had the numbers there. And so the behind the scenes, nobody sees that I made a friend at house 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I eventually made a sale. So I think that was the biggest thing in the beginning. And the thing that I changed was my posture. So I had a conversation with you as well as Nina, and I knew that it was me that was doing something wrong because at this point, I was setting the appointment. It wasn't taking me days to fill my calendar. I was setting my calendar in one day, and I was going in and I was seeing families, and I was walking out confused why I wasn't making a sale. And so instead of make excuses, I looked within and decided, okay, this is something I'm doing and what can I do better? And I think the biggest consistent answer was be in control. And I definitely wasn't. You hear the trainings, go to a table, sit here, and it's very easy to just go with the flow when you walk in. And when you go with the flow is when you don't make a sale. This is
Absolutely.
designed brilliantly. So if you just follow the design, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
What I do in this very beginning, I actually just started doing it consistently the last 2 weeks. And in the last 2 weeks, I issue paid 20,000. So
Okay.
I attribute that to what I changed.
Gotcha.
And when I walk into a home, I no longer ask questions right away. I sit down. I let them know who I am, who I work for, and what I'm there to do. And these are the three things I tell them. The first thing, I'm here to identify a need. I'd love to help you get what you want, but I'm here to get what you need. The second thing is affordability. There's no point in me helping you get something that you can't afford because you won't sustain it. And when you need it, it won't be there. And the third thing is that you qualify. So once we establish what you need and what you can afford, I'm going to help you submit an application, and then we'll see if the carrier will accept you. So at that point, I'm letting them know we're doing the application. At this point, I start with beneficiary. I ask if you're sitting there with your wife, I assume I'm here today because you want to protect your wife when something happens to you. Is that correct to assume?
Yeah, I mean, she's a stay-at-home mother,
Okay.
and just want to make sure that Mary's taken care of if something happened to me yesterday.
Sure. So I'm very assumptive. I already knew that answer, but I want him to hear it so he remembers why I'm there.
Okay.
Okay. I'll then ask, are the children going to be part of this? And then that's really all the friend talk I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm then moving right into the financial inventory. The
Okay.
financial inventory, I'm asking everything. I'm not skipping anything. In the beginning, I think if I was in a final expense, I would kind of, oh, what's your mortgage? Okay, and skip. No, I'm going to ask, do they own? Do they rent? And I'm going to understand their financial security because that's really what it was about. And in my mind, day one, if it wasn't a mortgage protection, why did I need to know that information?
Yep.
And now I understand I need to know that information because it helps with what they can afford. So
Okay,
that when
perfect.
they give me an objection of not being able to afford it, I can go back and say, well, Clay, we just went through your finances and you have X amount extra. Are you saying that this is not important enough to you to fit it into your bills?
Okay, so that's gold. Okay, so kind of walk me through how you do that. Like what exactly do
Absolutely.
you do? How do you find that out?
Yeah. So I ask what their rent or mortgage is, how much they make, and even if the wife, like let's say I walk into an appointment and the wife doesn't want any kind of coverage, they know that they just want it for the husband. I still ask how much she makes because in my mind, I'm going to be able to throw it back that that is part of his income.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
And then I also ask, okay, so outside of that, what are your biggest bills? Like how much would you say that you have in bills?
That's
So
great.
if
That's great.
so if they tell me that their rent or mortgage is $1,000, they bring home 400,000 or 4,000 a month and they have an additional 1,500 of bills. I know that they have $1,500 to play with. So at that point, that overcomes that objection. So here's the biggest thing that was hard for me to understand in the beginning. I was afraid of looking like a dummy. And I needed to realize that the client didn't know that calling you wasn't part of the process. So I feel like I needed to know everything day one. But now I understand that if I just implement, I'm calling my senior underwriter, he's at the office, he can plug in your prescriptions, and then we can just make sure we're going the smartest direction. It's almost like it's giving even more credibility
They like it,
than
don't
it's
they?
doing.
They
Yeah,
like it.
so it's definitely helping. So I'll call you. Hey, Clay, I'm with Tori. She's 55, a non-smoker. She's on atorvastatin and albuterol for asthma. As far as conditions go, the only thing she has is asthma, and that's it.
And I would say, okay, Americo Eagle Premier. And then what happens is magically, what happens after a month or so? You don't call me on those appointments anymore
Right.
because you have realized that, and that's so important for new agents to understand, is that it's going to get to the point where you're going to know what to write. It's getting you there. So you don't have to know every product by heart. You don't have to know all the different riders that come with a product. I'm going to do that for you. So
Yeah.
when a new agent sits on the sidelines for a couple weeks trying to study and make sure that they've got their flashcards for the John Hancock policy, that's not necessary because they're going to learn all that. Same thing happened to me. I come from a bartending background. I have no sales background. I'd never been in insurance. And my first appointment, Grady told me what to write. Walked out of there with $1,600 AP and going, this is the best thing ever. So
Yeah.
it's just so important. So, okay, so you've walked me through the process. You found my financial inventory. You called. Let's say I told you to write an HMS policy. Let's say that I'm 35. I told you to write an HMS with CBO.
Okay.
Kind of walk me through what you get off the phone with me, kind of walk me through what that would look like. Like what you're making the recommendation. Okay. Like I've told you what to write. How are you selling the client?
Yeah, so if I'm going to sell the client, I'm going to always give them two options if I can. She's young enough to do the cashback option, but understanding I want her to feel like she's making the decision. I'm going to talk through traditional mortgage protection with her and then traditional mortgage protection with cashback.
Okay.
Now, when I do that, I am going to talk about the benefit of the cashback, and I'm going to actually physically do the math of how much money she's going to be saving, circle it, and let her know, like, you're essentially getting protection for free. So most times they go with the cashback option.
So is it fair to say that if the husband's making all the income and the wife would be the one that would be in trouble, is it fair to say that you've kind of turned your attention to the wife?
Absolutely.
Because why?
Because he's not part of the conversation. And if the husband does overtalk me because maybe they may not be on the same page, I can hear the wife has a need and is afraid that she's going to have to leave her home with her kids. And the husband might be a little bit selfish in the aspect of he just wants the cheapest option. I will just say, with all due respect, sir, you're not here. She's the one that I'm concerned about.
So you're selling the wife, really, is what you're
Exactly.
doing. Okay, so they pick an option, you submit. Let's kind of go through how you leave the home. So
Yeah, I don't think I've ever said thank you, so
Good.
I might be rude, but so I make sure that I draw out exactly what it's going to look like. I don't ever tell anyone in the home that they were approved, even if I know, because I want the suspense and I want them to be excited about it and feel like they earned it. So I let them know that I put the application through. In 2 to 3 days, they're going to get a phone call from me, and the draft is going to come out. If they need anything, I do leave the acceptance sheet with them, just
Okay.
letting them know that I put the app through. I always write down what we went with, their monthly payment, and I reiterate if they need to make any changes, if in the future they know anyone that needs anyone. So trying to get referrals that way, always leaving my card. And I do let some of my personality come out in the end to kind of cement that appointment, make them like me, because at this point now the app has
You
gone
already
through.
have a client.
I have a client and I want a client that likes me, right? So I've learned to make a friend, but backwards.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I do take pictures. I post them every once in a while, but I do take pictures with 95% of my clients. I just tell them that I want to save it so that if they call me, I know exactly who I'm talking to because I see so many people.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. So I do that. And they're typically thanking me. They're excited that I was there. They're glad that they got coverage or they finally took the time to do it. So I walk out of the appointments feeling great, knowing I protected another family.
What would you say to that brand new agent?
Don't be afraid to screw up. Just run. I think that is the best thing that you can do is don't dip your toe in the water. Just run right through and make mistakes, but be coachable. That's going to be the biggest thing to getting confidence is going through the motions, understanding that everything has been set up for us. It's just about activity and attitude. So as long as you have those two things, it doesn't matter how bad you think you are or how much you could possibly screw up. As long as you know that you have the attitude to win and the activity to get you there, there's no other way.